Hello, good evening, everyone. Is my voice is clear or any disturbance?
Very clear.
Okay, thank you, sir. Because there is a power failure here and I have connected through my mobile, so there might be certain issues. Kindly let me know if there are certain issues like that. Okay, fine. So then I'll share my screen. We'll start the session. Okay. So in the last session, we discussed about a few calculations about the resistor. We have tried to find the value of the resistor with the help of color code. So we have taken few examples of resistor with the color code and we have tried to find the value of the resistor. And then we have connected these resistors in the different fashion, that is in series and parallel. And we have connected these resistors in a different fashion, that is series and parallel. And we have calculated the total resistance value. Just a minute. Sorry for that. So we have connected the resistor in different fashion and we have tried to calculate the total resistance value of the circuit. I'll continue our discussion. So now, before starting this technical, let us discuss related to rules and regulations, and we will talk about the phonetics today. In ham radio, whenever we say the call sign or whenever we say our name, what do we do is that we will tell in terms of the phonetics. We'll represent that in terms of phonetics, because it so happens that when we communicate, when we tell something, it may be heard from the other user. So he might be a transmitter, he or she, and at the other end who is receiving the signal, when we say something, then it might be heard as something else. So there might be possibility of wrong interpretation of words or whatever it is exchanged or communicated. So for this, we always mention few things in terms of phonetics. So we will understand these phonetic terms here. So like A to Z, how we have all learned, like A for apple, B for ball. So likewise, here in phonetics, we have the different in ham. It is internationally accepted. It is not only about the ham. It is everywhere. For example, if you take the marine or in the aeroplane services and communication or ATC traffic, this air traffic controller, all these use these phonetic terms itself to communicate, to avoid the confusion. Okay, so for example, if you want to say ATB75, we don't say it as ATB75 because ATB, it might be heard as something else. So that is why we have to represent this in terms of phonetics. Now let us understand these phonetics here. So A means here we represent it as alpha. B, we call it as Bravo. C, we call it as Charlie. You have to practice these phonetics. You have to practice these phonetics. So today we will discuss all the phonetics and you have to practice this at your free time. So A means alpha, B Bravo, C Charlie, D is Delta, E is Echo, then F stands for Foxtrot, and G stands for Golf. I request everyone to note down this thing in your notebook or whatever the uh, material you have. Then H is Hotel, then I is India, then J is Juliet, then K, it is Kilo, and L, it is Lima, M, Mike, N, November, O, Oscar, then P, Papa, Q, Quebec, Q is Quebec, Q is Quebec, R is Romeo, S, Sierra, T, Tango, U is uniform, V is Victor, W is whiskey, then X is X-ray, then Y is Yankee, then Z is Zulu, Z-U-L-U. So these are the phonetic terms which you all will practice, and you have to be, thorough in this. Now, for example, we will have a small exercise here. You have to tell your name with these phonetics. For example, my name is Parvez. Most of the times when I tell my name, the people will interpret as Praveen. So, in the phonetics, how do I pronounce this, my name? Then my name is Papa Alpha Romeo Victor Eco Zulu. This is how I'll tell the name over the radio to avoid the confusion. So now let's have a small exercise. I expect everyone to write down uh, these phonetic terms of alphabets A to Z, and to whoever I call, your first name you have to tell in terms of phonetics. Hope you all are ready. So I'll just switch the screen. So Srivatsa, can you unmute your mic and tell your name in terms of phonetics? You can look into the notebook and you can tell.
It's Sierra Hotel Romeo.
Okay.
Uh,
India.
India Victor Alpha Tango Hotel Sierra Alpha.
Very good. Very
Yeah.
nice. Ranjit sir. Sorry, Rajat. Okay. Asma madam. Am I audible, Asma madam? Okay, we'll take one more here. Stephen.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's
You can tell your
Sierra,
first. Yeah, okay.
Sierra Tango Echo Victor Alpha November.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so most of you have got it. So kindly practice this. Now you are looking and you are telling. You should remember these phonetics. So it's a very interesting thing. So you'll enjoy it whenever you tell to the friends or somebody. They will laugh at initially, but it's very interesting. Okay. So now let us discuss the technical thing. Now let us get back to our basic electronics. So in today's session, we will continue our discussion with the next passive components, which is mostly used in the electronic circuit, that is capacitor. So capacitor is nothing but it is the two plates separated by certain distance. It is the metal plates which are separated by certain distance here. So what happens, the property of this capacitor is it will store the charge in terms of voltage. Now, in the last session, I told you that there are two types of voltages. One is the AC voltage and DC voltage. AC voltage means with respect to this 0 point or the ground point, the voltage is constant. It is not varying. Whereas the AC voltage means it varies with respect to this reference. Sorry. Whereas the AC voltage means it varies like this, positive as well as the negative, with respect to time t. Now, we'll just connect this capacitor to a DC source or a DC voltage. So here there is an voltage here. Let me not confuse you. So there is a capacitor. See, the capacitor symbolically it is represented with two straight lines. Okay. So this is the way of symbolic representation. And the voltage source is represented by two lines parallel, but we write like this, where one line is bigger and another line is small. So whichever the line which is bigger, we call it as a positive terminal, and the small this line is called it as a negative terminal. Means we know that battery has the two ends, one is the positive as well as negative. So this is the way of representation. Whereas the capacitor is again represented by two straight lines, but of equal length. Now what happens when we connect a DC voltage to this? When we connect a DC voltage to this, then whichever the plate, we call it this as a plate, whichever the plate is connected to the positive terminal of this battery, it is charged with the positive potential, and this, the another plate which is connected to the negative terminal of this battery is charged with the negative potential. So now what happens? The capacitor, it charges slowly like this. It charges like this if you look into the graph with respect to time t, and it reaches to its maximum and gets saturated. It means it will start charging. The current starts flow like this. Initially the current flows, but when it is fully charged, the current does not flow. The DC current does not flow because it is capacitor is fully charged. Now, it acts like a storage element. Okay, so if we write the simple mathematical equation, the value of the capacitance is defined by epsilon into A divided by D. So A defines the area of the plates. Now if we take here the two plates of the capacitor like this, what is the capacitance value? Is the area of the plate. What is this? This is the total area. This area can be increased or decreased based on different capacitance value. This is the area and this is the distance. So what happens as the distance increase, the capacitance value decreases. As the distance decreases, the capacitance value increases. So it means the distance between the two plates is inversely proportional to the capacitance value. Whereas the area is directly proportional to the capacitance. Directly means if the bigger the plate size, then higher the capacitance. If higher the capacitance, more voltage it can store. Okay. So capacitors are available with the different voltages. So you might have seen this in the electronic boards, very commonly found in the electronic circuit boards, in the TV remotes or maybe TVs. If you have seen some circuits, then definitely you have seen. So there are different types of capacitors again. So these are called as the electrolytic capacitors, which has the two terminals here. You can see the two terminals here. This is one and this is another terminal, where in the capacitor, for this electrolytic capacitor, it has the polarities. It means we cannot connect in any way. It has to be, means the positive terminal has to be connected to positive. This negative terminal has to be connected to the negative. Whereas this, whatever the capacitance you are seeing here, this is called as a ceramic capacitor. It does not have any polarity. It means in a circuit, now if I want to connect to a battery, I can connect in any way. For example, if I call this as A terminal and B terminal, I can reverse this and I can connect a ceramic capacitor. No problem at all. There is no polarity. Okay. Whereas the electrolytic capacitors has the polarity. This is again ceramic capacitor, ceramic. This is called gang capacitor. It means we can vary this capacitance value by tuning by varying the knob here. Okay. So this is about the capacitor. Let us look into a few simple calculations of the capacitance. Now, for example, there are two capacitors are connected in a circuit. I connect this to a circuit with an voltage source, DC voltage, and we know that the current flows from positive to negative from here. Now, if I want to find the total capacitance in this case, then it is written as 1 by C is equal to 1 by C1 plus 1 by C2. Whereas in the resistance, what happened? If you remember the resistor circuit, when we connected like this, the two resistors in series, if we call this as R1 and R2, then the total resistance R is given as R1 plus R2, correct? But whereas when two resistors are connected in parallel to an voltage source, at that time, the total resistance is given by 1 by R is equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2. Okay. I'm just giving you the difference between the representation, mathematical representation of a capacitor and a resistor. Whereas if we connect the capacitor circuit in parallel, for example, I will connect the two capacitors in parallel like this. Now this is an voltage source, this is C1 and this is C2. Then the total capacitance is represented as C is equal to C1 plus C2. It means the capacitance value is get added up when we connect in parallel. Whereas in case of resistor, the resistance values get added up when we connected in series. You have to understand these two differences between resistor and capacitor. Resistor, what does it do? It just allows the current to flow, but it will restrict the rate of flow. It will just restrict the time it takes for the electrons to flow. It will restrict. But whereas the capacitor, it will store the charges. It will store the charge on the plates. Now, let us take a simple example here. There is a capacitor, and here there is a bulb which is connected. Okay. Now, say this is a 10 volts supply V, and this has certain capacitance C value. And let me take it as a switch here. Let us take a switch. Okay. Now, the switch is open, so there is no flow of current. Now consider that the switch is closed. Now switch is closed, what happens? The current will flow in this clockwise direction. Now the upper plate is keep on charging, and then you remember, you see that the capacitor is not fully charged. The capacitor is still charging. At that time, what happens? The current flows through the circuit, and initially the light is, or the bulb is on. Initially the bulb is in the on state, but once the capacitor is, it's still charging, but when it's reached its peak value, when does it reach peak value? Means when the capacitor is fully charged to 10 volts, then what happens? It acts like a reverse voltage source, so it does not allow any current to flow. At that time the bulb will be off, it will turn off. It means the bulb will be off, the bulb will be on only for a duration of time till the capacitor is charged. When the capacitor is fully charged, then the bulb will be turned off. Now capacitor is fully charged to 10 volts. Okay, now what I will do is that I'll reverse this polarity of the voltage source. When I reverse the polarity of the voltage source, initially the capacitor was fully charged with this A terminal as positive and B terminal with negative. When we reverse this DC voltage, what happens is that the capacitor starts discharging. It starts discharging like this. Then when it discharges, now the current is flowing in this direction. Now this is 10 volts, and this also get added up. Whatever the voltage stored in the capacitor, that is also get added up to this. Now the bulb will be glowing at double the brightness with the previous one, with a double brightness, because previously we just applied 10 volts, but now it is 10 volts plus 10 volts. What happens? The capacitor voltage, it is 20 volts, so obviously the bulb will be more brighter than the previous one. But again, this is not for the infinite time, it is only for the finite time, means limited time, until the capacitor is charged. Now what happens? The capacitor gets to its neutral position when it's completely discharged. After it's completely discharged, now capacitor again start charging in the opposite direction. Now what happens? The B plate charged with the positive potential, and the A plate is charged with negative potential. Okay, so the capacitor we can be charged and discharged in any direction. So it depends on the circuit how we are going to use this. Okay, so you have seen that we have connected the capacitance initially in one direction. Then the upper plate was charged, that is the A plate with positive and B plate with negative. Then the bulb was on for some time, then off because the capacitor was fully charged. But when we reverse the voltage, then what happened? The bulb has glown with double the brightness, because now the capacitance voltage and the voltage of this DC source get added. So that will give more voltage to the bulb to glow brighter. So then what happened is that, and after the capacitor discharged, and once again it's charged with the negative potential, I can say, with the opposite polarity, and then the bulb will go off. Now if we repeat this, the same process, what happens is that repeating this same process with the changing the polarity, rather than changing the polarity, now this time what I will do is that I will connect the AC voltage. I'll connect the AC voltage to the bulb. Now, during the positive peak of the AC voltage, this one supply, because this is a sinusoidal signal which varies between positive and the negative peak. Then during positive peak, what happens? The capacitor will be charged for some time, and then the bulb will be on, and immediately this voltage, since it is varying, when it enters the negative voltage, what happens? Again the bulb will be on with the double the brightness. Then what happens? Then the second plate is charged with the positive potential. Okay, and the bulb will be on for some time with double brightness, and then it goes to off. this process is repeated. So now what we have observed is that once the capacitance is charged, it blocks the flow of current. So it has the one property what we can understand is that in terms of DC, when we connect the DC voltage here, one of the properties is that we can say the capacitor blocks the DC supply. You see, initially when we connected only DC source, what happens? The capacitor is fully charged and then it has blocked the flow of current. But when we have connected the AC voltage, what happens? Since it is continuously varying, we can say that the capacitor allows the AC signal or AC voltage. Okay. So one of the properties that the capacitor blocks the DC and allows the AC signal. So this is a property of the capacitor. So basically we use the capacitor in the circuit to store the charge or to store the voltage. Now continuing with our discussion, the next passive component in the electronic circuit is the inductor. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So next is the inductor. So if we take a copper rod and when we allow the current to flow from top to bottom in this direction, then this copper rod, when the current passes through this, it get energized and it set up an electric field. Sorry, it set up a magnetic field. So this magnetic field, the direction of the magnetic field will be clockwise direction. And if we reverse the direction of current from bottom to top, then the direction of magnetic field which is set up will be in an opposite direction, like this. It is just we can think of the left hand rule and the right hand rule. So inductor, in most of the electronic circuits we use inductors and the capacitors to store the charge. Now one of the property of the inductor is, so inductors will block the AC signal and allows the DC voltage or current. Now if we see the capacitor here, we'll pause for some time about inductor and we'll come back to capacitor. So if you look into the capacitor, at lower voltages it is fine. At lower voltage, what happens? The capacitor acts like open circuit. The second property, which I forgot to mention. At low frequency, the capacitor acts like open circuit, and at high frequency, capacitor acts like short circuit. Whereas in terms of inductor, the case is reverse. It blocks the AC and allows the DC, and we'll look into the second property later. Now we'll discuss one more terminology here, that is the frequency term. So we know that the AC voltage is represented in terms of a sinusoidal which is continuously varying. To understand this, this AC voltage, whatever we have, whatever we get at our home, it is we call it as a 250 volts, 50 hertz. So frequency is usually measured in terms of hertz. The unit for the frequency is hertz. Hertz. So the unit of frequency is hertz. Now, what is this frequency represents? Now, for example, most of us know, but if somebody doesn't know, let us take an example here. So let us take from morning 6 a.m. to evening 9 p.m. How many times we will take the food? If it is 3, we will take the food normally 3 times. So what is the frequency that we take the food? So our frequency has become 3, and the distance between this, we call it as a time, means the gap between the first meal and the second meal. But with the same time bound, if you have 5 times a day a meal, then what is the frequency has become? So it is the frequency has become 5. Now if you look into the time interval has been reduced. So time interval has been reduced, whereas the frequency has been increased. Why I am discussing this? Because I want to introduce the new terminology here, that is something called wavelength lambda. So this is my, say, a time bound, and this is the oscillations which are generated in this time bound. So how many times the signal oscillates in this time bound? So here normally it is considered as 1 second. So here it is oscillating how many times? 2 times. So what is the frequency has become? Frequency has become 2. And there is something called wavelength. So we will measure the distance between the 2 peaks or the 2 minima. We can take any one. We will measure this distance. This distance in time, so this distance we represent it in terms of wavelength lambda. So the formula for the lambda is lambda is equal to c by f. C is nothing but it is the velocity of the light, that is 3 into 10 to the power of 8, that is meters per second, divided by whatever the frequency we have. So if the frequency is 2, then that will represent the lambda value. We can just calculate with the help of calculator. Now with the same time bound, if the number of oscillations are increased, like we have increased the number of food consumption in a day from 6 to 9 p.m., then what happens? Similarly, the number of oscillations also increased. Like this. Now, how many oscillations from here to here? It is 1, 2, and 3. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now the frequency has become 4 hertz. And lambda value, if you see, compared to the previous example, now as the frequency increases, the lambda value decreases. It means when we go higher in the frequency, the lambda value will be keep on decreasing. It means the wavelength will be keep on decreasing. So these are inversely related to each other. If the frequency value decreases, then the lambda value increases. Okay. So why I introduced this term here? Because here I have told the second property of the capacitor at low frequency. Low frequency means when the oscillations are lower, then the capacitor acts like an open circuit. And when the oscillations are higher, means the oscillations are too high, then the capacitor does not get the enough time to charge and discharge. So at that time, it just acts like a short circuit. So when it acts like a short circuit, then there is no significance to the capacitor. So to just tell that, I have brought in these things here about the frequency and the wavelength. Anyway, frequency and wavelength is also required in the further topics when we are discussing about the radio propagations. Now coming back to the inductor here. Now I told you that the inductor acts when we apply when you pass the current through an inductor, for example, a copper rod, then it set up a magnetic field around it. So this direction of the magnetic field is very important. So here, this is represented by left hand rule. So if you just close the fist of your left hand and point the thumbs up, then you can see that the fingers which are the closed, which indicates that the direction of the magnetic field. So likewise, this will represent the direction of the magnetic field. The thumb represents the positive terminal. Now, but this magnetic field, whatever it is generated, it is not sufficient. So what do we need to do to increase the inductance? To increase the inductance, what we will do is that rather than having a straight copper rod or a copper wire, what we will do, we will we'll make this in terms of coil like this. Now what happens whenever we make a coil? To understand this, okay, before going for this, let us bend this rod like this. Before going to understand the coil, now we have a straight rod here. If this is positive and this is negative, now what is the direction of the magnetic field? It is a clockwise direction. Now if we bend this rod like this, and now this is negative, so this, due to this positive terminal here, now what happens if you look into this? This is clockwise or anti-clockwise? Yes, it will be in a anti-clockwise direction, and here at this end it will be in a clockwise direction. Now if you see, now the magnetic fields are in opposite direction. It means it is concentric in an opposite direction here. So to increase the magnetic field, what do? We will turn the inductors, a copper wire into an inductor like this by twisting, or you can see in this diagram what we have, we call it as a winding. So here we have winded to increase the inductance value, because we have to increase the magnetic field around it. So if you see here, at each of the rotation point, it has its own, in own direction, it has a magnetic field, and this next turn will have the magnetic field in the opposite direction. Okay, this will have this direction, this will have an opposite direction, but all together it will set up one particular magnetic field, and it has a one particular polarity. So one of its end will be the north pole and another end will become the south pole. And if you want to further increase the inductance value, then we have to insert inside this coil, we have to insert either the soft iron or a steel rod. So when we insert this soft iron, it has the particles, and these particles, when are inserted inside this coil, it will it will give the direction for this magnetic field, and the magnetic field get directed in one particular direction. Now it means the magnetic fields will start from this end and ends at the other end. So this will become the north pole. So we have understood that the inductor, whenever we energize the inductor, it generates a magnetic field around it, and to increase the magnetic field around the conductor, we have to make in terms of coil. Rather than having a straight copper rod, we will turn, make the turns in terms of coil, and the inductance value, where is this? The inductance value depends on the number of turns, how many turns we'll make, and the amount of current we will supply. The amount of current we will supply and the number of turns. Turns means how many these rotations will make of this coil. So that defines the inductance value. But unlike capacitor, the inductor cannot hold the charge. Whereas if we disconnect the voltage, once the capacitor is fully charged, when we disconnect the voltage, the capacitor will be completely in charge mode. It will hold the voltage. But whereas the inductor, as soon as we'll disconnect the supply, what happens is that it will get de-energized. It does not hold any charge. Only for a fraction millisecond, it will have this energy, magnetic energy, but after that it will collapse. The energy will be collapsed. So in the circuits, in the electronic circuit, we will be using this combination of the capacitor and inductor to make the tuned circuit, which we'll see in the coming chapters, which generates the oscillations. So what happens, the capacitor, once it is charged with this, assume it is initially charged, then the capacitor will be discharged through an inductor, then the coil will have the magnetic field in this direction. But a continuous process will take place. So then what happens, the capacitor will get discharged and it will get again charged in the opposite direction because current starts flowing. And then what happens, this upper plate will become negative and lower plate will become positive. At that time, once it is again charged in the opposite direction, again the current flow in the opposite direction, then the inductor get energized and then the magnetic field will be in another direction. So this to and fro motion will generate oscillations, and these oscillations we'll use it as the, we can use this circuit to generate the oscillations or the oscillator circuit. Okay. So I'll stop at this point. If you have any queries, you can ask.
Sir, is there any reference textbook, sir?
Reference textbook, particular text, I'll share the supporting material. You can, thing is, everything is not there in one particular material. So maybe I can share you the content wise, whichever the topic we have covered. You can refer to those books only related to those contents. Is that fine, sir?
Thank you very much.
Yes, yes. Okay. I'll share in the group, WhatsApp group. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. So if there is nothing, then we'll wind up today's session.